The 1950s, a time when Elvis was king, poodle skirts were all the rage, and America was getting its first taste of a revolutionary new form of entertainment: television. In this video, we're taking a trip back to the golden age of TV to explore how this gadget became a household staple and forever changed the way families spent their time together. We'll dive into the fascinating early days of television, when owning a TV was a luxury, and trace its rise to become the centerpiece of the American living room. Along the way, we'll talk about some of the most iconic TV shows of the era, from the hilarious antics of I Love Lucy to the eerie stories of the Twilight Zone, and how these programs didn't just entertain but also influenced culture, family dynamics, and even how Americans consumed news and politics. We'll also take a peek at the booming world of TV advertising, where catchy jingles and creative commercials made their way into American homes. Plus, we'll explore the incredible technological innovations that made watching TV even more exciting, like the invention of the remote control and the debut of color broadcasts. So grab your TV dinners, get comfy, and let's dive into the story of how television took over America in the 1950s and changed home entertainment forever. Hello and welcome to History of Life, where we relive history's greatest moments and the eras in between. Whether we're exploring iconic decades like the 1950s or uncovering the hidden gems of history, we're here to make learning fun, nostalgic, and, most importantly, entertaining. In today's video, we're taking a deep dive into the golden age of television as we look at how TV became a central piece of American life and culture. If you love exploring the past and discovering how it connects to the present, then you're in the right place. If you'd like to see more fascinating facts, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell. We love having you around, so thanks for checking us out. So let's rewind a bit before the 1950s, back to a time when the idea of having moving pictures in your living room was closer to science fiction than reality. Believe it or not, television as a concept actually started developing as early as the 1920s and 1930s. But in those days, TV sets were more of a curiosity than a household item. Only a handful of people had ever seen one. In fact, the first big public unveiling of a television set happened in 1939 at the New York World's Fair. RCA, the company behind this early breakthrough, saw the potential, but there were still a lot of hurdles to jump. For starters, TV sets were incredibly expensive and, well, there just wasn't a whole lot to watch yet. At this point, the programming options were slim. You had a few live broadcasts and some experimental shows, but nothing like the content explosion that would happen in the 1950s. World War II also hit the pause button on television's progress. Factories that could have been building TVs were instead focused on making equipment for the war effort. But everything changed after the war. Once the soldiers came home and America entered an economic boom, TV sets started rolling off production lines in bigger numbers. One fun fact that I love from this time period is that the very first televised baseball game aired in 1939, featuring the Brooklyn Dodgers and the Cincinnati Reds. Imagine watching a baseball game on a tiny, flickering black and white screen. It must have felt like you were witnessing the future. It's amazing to think that something as common as watching sports on TV all started from these humble beginnings. So, while the TV revolution didn't fully take off until the 1950s, these early years, full of quirky experiments, technological breakthroughs, and a sense of wonder, paved the way for the transformation that was just around the corner. Alright, fast forward to the early 1950s, and suddenly televisions were everywhere. I mean, picture it, by 1950, there were over 4 million TV sets in American homes. But what really caused this sudden growth? Well, a lot of factors played into it. After World War II, America was experiencing an economic boom. Families had more disposable income, and buying a TV was one way to bring a little bit of luxury and excitement into the home. Plus, companies like RCA and Zenith were making TVs more affordable for the average household. But it wasn't just the affordability of TVs that made them so popular, it was also what was on the TV. By the early 1950s, television networks were producing a wide range of shows for every type of audience. You had the big players like CBS, NBC, and ABC, each racing to capture viewers' attention. One of the major catalysts that allowed television to truly take off was the FCC's decision in 1952 to lift its freeze on new TV station licenses. This led to an explosion in local television stations across the country. Suddenly, you had local stations beaming news, sports, and entertainment directly into people's homes. But the impact of television wasn't just about the shows themselves. it was also about how it changed the way families spent time together. Before TV, the radio was the centerpiece of home entertainment, but now families were gathering around the television for a whole new kind of family bonding. Parents, kids, and even the family dog would pile onto the couch, eyes glued to the screen as they watched their favorite shows. By 1955, more than 50% of American households owned a television. Can you imagine that level of cultural shift in just a few short years? TVs went from being a rare luxury to something as common as a toaster, and with that shift came a whole new way of structuring family time. Instead of playing board games or listening to the radio, families were now watching their favorite TV programs together, shaping not just how they spent their evenings, but also what they talked about at the dinner table. Now, let's talk about the real stars of the 1950s, the shows that kept Americans glued to their television screens night after night. Let's start with one of the most beloved sitcoms of all time, I Love Lucy. Premiering in 1951, this show became a nationwide phenomenon almost overnight. Lucille Ball's hilarious portrayal of Lucy Ricardo, a quirky, mischievous housewife, and her dynamic with real-life husband Desi Arnaz, who played Ricky, brought comedy to a whole new level. I Love Lucy wasn't just about laughs, though. It broke ground in television history. I Love Lucy was the first TV show to be filmed in front of a live studio audience using multiple cameras. But perhaps one of the most groundbreaking moments in TV history came in 1953 when Lucille Ball's real-life pregnancy was written into the show. At the time, showing a pregnant woman on TV was almost unheard of. And when the episode where Lucy gives birth aired, over 44 million people tuned in. That's more than the number of people who watched President Eisenhower's inauguration. Next, let's jump to something a little different, The Twilight Zone. Debuting in 1959, this show was unlike anything people had ever seen on television. Created by the brilliant Rod Serling, The Twilight Zone mixed science fiction, horror, and psychological drama with a touch of social commentary. Each episode was a standalone story, often with a twist ending that left viewers thinking long after the credits rolled. Rod Serling used the sci-fi and fantasy elements of The Twilight Zone to cleverly bypass network censorship. By wrapping serious social issues like racism, fear of nuclear war, and paranoia in science fiction, he could explore deeper themes without raising too many red flags. The result? One of the most influential TV shows ever made, inspiring countless future storytellers, filmmakers, and TV creators. Now, on the lighter side of things, we have Leave It to Beaver, which aired from 1957. This family sitcom perfectly captured the idealized image of suburban life in 1950s America. It followed the Cleaver family, particularly young Beaver Cleaver and his everyday adventures with his older brother Wally and their parents, June and Ward. Leave It to Beaver painted a picture of wholesome family values, with each episode offering gentle life lessons. This show became the blueprint for countless family sitcoms that followed. It portrayed the perfect family, but it also reflected the expectations and ideals of the era. Mothers in pearls, fathers coming home from work, and kids navigating their youthful misadventures. So whether it was the groundbreaking comedy of I Love Lucy, the mind-bending stories of The Twilight Zone, or the heartwarming simplicity of Leave It to Beaver, the TV shows of the 1950s left a permanent mark on American culture. Hey, are you enjoying the trip down memory lane so far? We've covered some iconic shows, but there's still so much more to talk about. Up next, we're diving into the impact television had on American culture and society, plus some of the incredible technological innovations that transformed the way we watch TV. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. If you're enjoying this video, we hope you can hit that like button and subscribe to our channel so we can share more captivating history tidbits to you. Television in the 1950s wasn't just about entertainment. Before TV, most Americans got their news from newspapers or radio, but now they could actually see what was happening. The 1952 presidential election was a perfect example of TV's growing influence. It was the first election that featured significant television coverage, allowing candidates like Dwight D. Eisenhower and Adlai Stevenson to connect directly with the American public through televised speeches and campaign ads. Eisenhower's I Like Ike TV campaign ads were a game-changer in political strategy. They were short, catchy, and visually engaging, completely different from the long-winded speeches people were used to hearing on the radio. This showed that television wasn't just a platform for entertainment, it was also becoming a key player in politics and public opinion. Television also played a huge role in reinforcing and, in some cases, challenging traditional gender roles. Shows like Leave It to Beaver and Father Knows Best presented the ideal American family with a clear division of roles. Moms like June Cleaver were always immaculately dressed, cooking, cleaning, and managing the household while offering sage advice to their children. Meanwhile, fathers were portrayed as the moral authority of the family, coming home from work to pass on wisdom to their kids. But while these shows idealized a specific vision of family life, television also started to introduce more complex narratives about gender and family roles. For example, Lucille Ball's character in I Love Lucy, though still a housewife, was anything but traditional. TV quickly became the go-to source of entertainment, and its influence was impossible to ignore. Television didn't just entertain, it introduced people to new ideas, connected them to national events, and even shaped their expectations of what life should look like. The idea that TV could spark conversations, reflect societal values, and even challenge norms was just the beginning. Over time, television would grow to become even more influential, not just in the home but in every aspect of American life. Now, you can't talk about TV in the 1950s without mentioning one of its biggest side effects, the television advertising boom. As TV sets started popping up in homes across America, advertisers quickly realized they had a golden opportunity. Instead of just hearing about a product on the radio or seeing it in a magazine, people could now see the product in action right in their living rooms. Major companies were spending millions of dollars on slick, creative ads designed to grab viewers' attention and keep their brand at the top of everyone's minds. One of the things that made television advertising so successful was its ability to target the entire family. Advertisers knew that families gathered around the TV together, so they created commercials that appealed to everyone. From the latest vacuum cleaner to the newest toy craze, TV ads became a daily part of American life. Let's take a moment to appreciate just how catchy those early ads were. By now, jingles were everywhere. These catchy tunes weren't just selling products, they were embedding themselves into popular culture. I bet you can even hum a few of those old jingles right now. But the impact of television advertising wasn't just about catchy songs and clever slogans. TV ads fundamentally changed the way people consumed products. Instead of going to the store and picking whatever brand was available, viewers started forming emotional connections with brands they saw on TV. Suddenly, it wasn't just about buying soap, it was about buying the soap that promised to make your clothes the whitest, the freshest, and the cleanest. The persuasive power of television ads was undeniable. As the 1950s progressed, television advertising became more sophisticated, using clever storytelling, humor, and even emotion to connect with viewers. Advertisers weren't just selling products, they were selling a lifestyle. Commercials showed happy families, shiny new appliances, and the American dream, all packaged neatly into a 30-second video. It was brilliant marketing, and it worked. By the end of the decade, TV ads had solidified their place as one of the most powerful tools in the advertising industry. As TV became the centerpiece of the American home, it wasn't just the shows and commercials that were evolving, the technology behind the TV itself was advancing at lightning speed. The 1950s were a time of major innovations that made watching television easier, more convenient, and, let's be honest, a lot more fun. In the early days of television, sets were big, boxy, and often only broadcast in black and white. But as the technology improved, manufacturers found ways to make TVs smaller, more reliable, and eventually in color. One of the biggest innovations that changed the TV watching experience in the 1950s was the invention of the remote control. Before this, changing the channel meant you had to get up, walk over to the TV, and physically turn the dial. Sounds exhausting, right? That all changed in 1950, when Zenith introduced the first ever remote control called Lazy Bones. But here's the catch, it was connected to the TV by a long cord, so not exactly wireless freedom just yet. Still, it was a major step forward. People no longer had to leave the comfort of their couches to change the channel, and as the decade went on, things got even better. By 1955, Zenith had developed the first wireless remote control called Flashmatic. This game changer used a beam of light to signal the TV, which meant viewers could now flip between channels with just the push of a button, no cords attached. Of course, one of the biggest dreams for TV owners in the 1950s was to watch their favorite shows in color. Most broadcasts were still in black and white, but that started to change in the middle of the decade. This was a huge leap forward, but not many people had color TVs yet. In fact, color TV sets were expensive, and it wasn't until the late 1960s that they really became mainstream. Despite the slow start, the introduction of color TV was a big part of television's evolution. Combine that with the innovations in remote controls, and you have a picture of a decade where television was rapidly changing, getting better, brighter, and more convenient for the viewer. And there you have it, the golden age of television. From its humble beginnings as a novelty in the 1930s to becoming the centerpiece of American life by the 1950s, television transformed not only how people entertained themselves, but also how they saw the world. It was groundbreaking, bringing families together in a way no other technology had before. We've explored how early TV technology evolved and how by the 1950s, nearly every home had a set. We've also looked at the unforgettable shows like I Love Lucy and The Twilight Zone, which not only entertained but shaped culture, gender roles, and even political thought. And let's not forget the rise of TV advertising, those catchy jingles that made brands household names, and the incredible technological innovations like the remote control and the first color broadcasts. Television became a cultural force that connected people, shaped the way families spent their evenings, and even influenced how they thought about the world. It's amazing to think how much of our modern media landscape traces back to this incredible decade when TV first took center stage in the American home. Thank you for watching History of Life. We hope you enjoyed this trip down memory lane. By the way, here at History of Life, we're always striving for perfection. Have any feedback on how we can improve? Do let us know in the comment section, and while you're at it, we'd love to hear your thoughts. What's your favorite classic TV show from the 1950s? Or maybe you've got a fun fact we didn't cover. Drop a comment below and let's get the conversation going. Like this video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos like this, and don't forget to hit that notification bell to know when the next one comes out.